Welcome back, guys. We're on the electrical part now for this here driver door lock module. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of stuff in this thing, and I'm going to try to cover it as much as I can to what I think I know. And there's some things in here, to be honest, I do not know what is going on, what Volkswagen, what the engineers had in mind. But let me answer my first question. When I took the door off, you remember I mentioned in there that I didn't do any troubleshooting. I was basically looking at the symptoms. Okay, take off the door lock module. Now we could go in there, we can look at the scanner, and the scanner will point us in the direction and it'll say, okay, driver door lock module has an issue. But sometimes it got some cryptic messages in there, not telling you exactly maybe which switch is bad in there. And even if you say, well, I'm going to go in there and troubleshoot it, go in there with a voltmeter. Well, a scan tool gets you pointed into the direction, and then you should follow it up, let's say, with a voltmeter check. If you got a code for TPS, you're not going in there and just automatically change the sensor. You're going to go out there and you're going to do a little diagnosis, put your meter on there and check it. Well, okay, so let's say you're going to do a little diagnosis. You're going to do the wiring diagrams. Well, let's start with Volkswagen's OEM diagrams. Let's take a look at this here diagram. All right, you got a good look at that? Mm-hmm. Well, right here, you see, here's the driver door module. Well, they were so nice of us, Volkswagen, to put that little transistor in there to let us know there's electronics in here. Now, they could have saved a lot of money not even putting that little symbol. Think of all the ink they could have saved. Of course we know there's electronics in there. Okay, so there's not really any help there. They don't even give us a little bit of info in here to let us know, what kind of voltage is in here. Is it a voltage being supplied by positive? Is it a negative? We don't have no clue. So you can forget that part. All right, let's move on down here. We're looking now. Here's the driver door module. Well, let's see. Well, looky here. We got a motor in there. All right, got a motor, DC motor. Okay, now we got a switch over here. Well, if you didn't look at those diagram where I showed on the internals of the driver door lock module, and I explained it a little bit, would you know which one of these switches or which? Look at this one right here. Well, this here dashed line implies that these two switches are working off of that motor. Well, let's see. We had one switch, didn't we? And this one says normally closed. That's normally closed. Do you know which switch these are? How about this one over here? Do you know what switch that is? We don't know. And this shows this switch is closed. So you don't know which which function is serving. Same as these over here. Well, and then you got two more switches over here, right? Well, you get lucky and you can say, well, that there probably is, maybe it's for the doors when you put the key in and you turn it to lock or unlock. You probably figured that out from the video, right? But you see how they got the dash line, the lines in here? It implies that when you turn one switch, that it's mechanically going to turn the other. Is that what's happening? No, it's not doing that. We know that. And if this is the switches for the key, that shows that they're open, right? So maybe that is the one for the key. And then over here, now I already know which one is which because I've looked at it, but I'm just trying to show you, just by looking at this diagram, it doesn't show you which switch is which, and you don't know what state it is in. In other words, is the door closed? Is the door open? Is it locked? Is it unlocked? You have no idea. All right. All right. Okay. So now that we see that, let's take a look at Mitchell diagrams and see what they have. Okay. Okay. Now this here is a driver door lock module from Mitchell. Well, let's see. We have our motor. Okay. We got a switch. Shows it's in a normally closed position. Do you know what switch that would be? And what state is this switch? As far as where's the door? Is it closed? Is it open? Is it locked? Unlocked? How about this one over here? Do you know what this one is for? Or how about this one here? Or that one? So you see, none of these switches are marked, and we don't know what state the door is in to know how to actually troubleshoot this thing. Then if you go out there and you start, say, troubleshooting, what you want to do, once you pull your outer door panel off, you can see that all of these switches here, all of them are going back over to this here module. This is a driver door module. If you notice in the video, when I tore the door down, I pointed out the black casing where that's connected to the power window motor. That's where this assembly is at. Okay. Again, you know, we don't have any kind of internals. You know, usually they don't show that. GM and Ford, a lot of times they'll show some little bit of details in there to kind of give us an idea, you know, what's going on. But here you have no idea, right? It don't tell us anything about lock, unlock. And you know, I'm not blaming Mitchell, because you saw on the OEM diagrams there was nothing there. Well, they did give us a little transistor, and they don't give us one here. Okay, so how can we troubleshoot this? Well, and my short answer is you are not going to be able to. Now you can go in there by trial and error and go in there and put your key in and turn this and get up there on your driver door module connector and see if you see voltage change, not change. If you don't see it there, then move your pin and all that. Well, guess what? That is not troubleshooting. That's called reverse engineering to figure out what these diagrams are trying to say to us. Okay, so didn't want to go through all this trouble, and then what you're doing is you're not sure of what you're getting. In other words, when you troubleshoot, you should expect to know what you're going to get as far as voltages and whether the state is this or that, and what the door is and where it's at and everything. You should know all that before you even go in. So looking at these diagrams, they're useless. About as useless as tits on a borehole. Okay. Now for you guys, I have taken the time to do something for you. I have taken these here drawings and reverse engineered it, so I'm going to save you guys all the legwork here. Okay. Now let me get this other one up here. Let me pull that one out of the way. Alright. I have taken this here, and this here should work from 98 to 2005, mid 2005 for the MK4 series, A4 platform. That this here driver door lock module, this should apply to you also. Okay, that's the Passats, the Jettas, you know, those series of cars out there, those makes. Alright, and we're going to go through them one by one. Okay, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put that right up here so we can refer to the actual board, the switches, to what we have down here. Okay, now if you take a look at this switch, you can see that I've got common, normally open, normally closed. That is how these switches, this switch is in this position without this plunger being made. If you look at the top, you see that common is pin number 7, the normally open is pin number 6. These two pins right here will be going out to this connector right over here. Alright, so pin 7 is our common, as you see, is down here, and then also pin 6 is right up here for that switch. That is looking at this here connector just like this. You notice that you can see the pins down inside. Okay, and if you look down here, you can see the curved part is just like the curved part right up here. Alright, so now that you see how the orientation of the connector is to my drawing, let's continue on. Alright, the same thing holds true for this switch right here. This switch here is going to be when the key is going to turn into the lock position. Now what will happen is that normally when you're not pressing the button here, of course you got the common, normally open and normally closed. Now when you turn the key to the lock position, then the plunger is going to hit that, and then that is going to make the contact between common and normally open close. By the way, that is the same exact scenario for the unlock that I didn't mention, that when you turn the key to go to the unlock, you're going to have continuity between the common, normally open, is going to be closed. Okay? Alright, now this switch right here, this one here, this was the one that was bugging me, and in fact I've held up on this video from uploading for a couple of weeks, and I still do not fully know what's going with that. But we're going to come back to this one a little later, because if you notice, look over here on my PC board. do you notice that I do not have that switch, but there are holes in here for it, okay? Look at this switch. I do have it, all right? And we'll come back to this one later to what I somewhat, you know, have an answer for, all right? But let's continue on to this one. Okay, now this switch right here is going to be for the unlock status. As you remember, the slide is going to come up and hit the plunger, and that's where it's going to be in an unlock position. But without the plunger being pressed, we're going to have continuity, no continuity between common and normally open. That's how it is, right? Then when the slide comes up, hits the plunger, then we're going to have a continuity between common and normally open, okay? And I've also, if you are backing up just a hair, just want to make sure I don't forget this. These switches here, these two switches I got down here as a notation, they are wired normally open. This one, wired normally open, okay? They are normally closed when you go put the key in and go to an unlock, and then this one normally closes, go to a key lock here. So I have that information right down in here also. All right, continuing on. Back over to this one right here. I have this information for this one and this one down in here in this block. Now for this one, we'll focus on this one. This one is wired normally open, but it's held closed. And in the unlock status, that means when the slide is up here on the plunger, then the contact is normally closed, okay? Now let's go over to this one. We can talk about the status of these contacts. This one is wired normally closed, all right? And in an unlock status, it is normally closed, okay? So that plunger is not being made, all right, in this unlock status when that slide is up here, okay? So you notice how that in the unlock status, right, for both of these switches, notice that the continuity is normally closed and it's normally closed, all right? And I actually put down in here so you would know the state of that. So the switch contacts above are when the slide is in the unlocked state. This means the slide's flag is pressing the unlock status switch plunger. When the slide moves to the lock position, the contacts change state as shown below. So when they go to the lock status, right, then both of those switches are going to be in a normally open condition. All right, so far so good. All right, actually I put up here for the slide so that when the slide is moving in this direction, you're going to an unlock condition, right? And when it goes in this direction, you're going to a lock condition. Okay, now if you look right up here, you can see that we have those two wires. These two wires, blue and red. And I showed those right down here. Now this wire right here is coming over here on the blue. That is going out to pin 8 of the connector over here, and that is going to be normally open. Red, which is going out to pin 7, is going to be the common. All right. Now here we go with this one over here. You forget all about this stuff up here about part numbers and all. I'll go over that after we get through with this other stuff. Now what is going to happen is this switch right here is going to detect when the door is open or when it's closed. The switch is wired normally open, but it's held closed. All right, so in a normally open condition, the door is closed. When the switch is normally closed, the door is open. Okay, you with me with that, guys? Okay. Now, I'm going to flip the board over, okay? And we'll probably refer back to him a little bit later. I'm going to flip the board over, okay? And now we have another diagram. Now this is looking at the back side of the PC board, okay? Now, all of those solder connections that I mentioned that gives a problem and they crack, remember, they're all right here. Well, here are those solder connections. Can you see that pretty good? Those solder connections, I've already labeled them out for you. It's 357, okay? 357, 468, 468. These two up here on the top, see there's pin 8, there's pin 7. All right, and those are the ones, of course, going out to the door switch. Tells you when it's open or closed. These here's the motor. All right, the motor is going out to pins 1 and 2. All right, now pins 1 and 2, they're not going, they're going inside the connector, right? And those are these here long long leads going out here. Of course, you can see they're going out to the motor, and then they're coming back in straight right into the connector. They're not tied and connected onto the PC board. Okay, you see that right there? All right. Now, the polarity of this is that if you make pin 1 negative and pin 2 positive, you will go to the lock condition. That's the slide will move in that direction to go to lock. Now, if you reverse the polarity, make 1 positive and 2 negative, then it's going to go into an unlock condition. The motor is going to reverse. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so let's get back to this here switch that I have dashed out right now. I have it dashed out because it is not on mine. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you have a car that's made in North America, or it's going to be bought in North America, then you will not have this switch right here, okay? But if you have a car outside of North America, say that you bought in Germany or Brazil or England or somewhere, then you will have this switch, okay? Now, that's where it came in, because if you look at the wiring diagrams, right, we have all of these switches in place, right? Let me just get back to the OEM here, right? Here's where this thing got bogged down, right? You see that I have a total of 4 switches, right? I have 3 on the PC board, and I have 1 going out for the door lock. I mean, for the door open or close. Well, look, I got 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Well, you see these 2 switches right here? Okay, you see how they're tied to the motor? Well, one of them is for that unlock status, and then this other one is that added switch, right? In fact, let me just make sure that I'm telling you right when I say lock and unlock. Okay. Okay. This one right here, okay, pin 5. You see it's on pin 5 right there. This switch right here is going to be for the unlock status. This one over here is going to be, I'm going to say, the lock status or safe or unsafe condition. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then we have these others. So I had this extra switch. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Why do I have this? I don't have this extra switch. I looked in this manual from 98. I thought, well, okay. They made a design change somewhere, and they didn't get the diagrams updated, say, for that year. All right, so I said, well, I'm going to look through the other years. Obviously, they would have caught it. Well, guess what? I went from 98 all the way to 2005 looking at the MK4 series, A4 platform, and every diagram was just like this, had 5 switches. I'm thinking to myself, why in the hell, what is going on? So I did a little more research. I looked online, and everything that I was seeing was it was showing you how to repair these solder connections and the micro switch, you know, for the door open and close, it'll break. And I'm thinking, hey, they got 3 switches too, just like me. They got the holes missing, and I got the holes in there for the switch, but there's no switch. Now it's getting even more confusing. Did more research. Well, I happened to come across a video on YouTube, and it's, I'm sure you guys, Volkswagen, his name is BMacBags. That's his username. And he's showing you how to repair and open up a door module, and he's going in there, you know, he had a problem with his switch, micro switch for the door opening and closing. Holy moly, I look at that, I see 4 switches. Now, I said, well, they do have it. But I sent him a message and, you know, asking him, hey, what's going on with this switch, blah, blah, blah. But never got a response back, right? Okay, so I did some more research. Happened to run across another video on a guy's problem, right? Now, this guy's problem is interesting, right? Now, this, I sent him a message and I told him I was going to give him credit, all right? This other switch, this added switch, is supposedly a safe, unsafe feedback status, right? I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I'm going to let you read it right along here. Okay, and I wrote back, and I wrote him first and asked him, I said, look, I says, hey, this switch, you got 3 on his, and you got 4 on yours, I got 3, and this, but I think this is what's going on. This guy, let me explain a little bit what happened on him. On him, he had a Passat, and on the driver's side, both doors, everything worked fine. When he pressed the unlock button or lock button, let's say he wants to lock it. He locks it. The two doors on the other side of the car, on the passenger side, they would lock. Mm-hmm. And the ones on the driver's side, they would lock and then they unlock by themselves. Okay? And he put two door modules in there on that side. All right? And I think he actually opened them up and did some repairs. And I think maybe he actually bought two door modules to put on that side. All right? So, and he's got this issue, right? So, I was watching the video and it didn't make sense to me because these doors did not want to stay, you know, locked. As soon as you lock them, boop, and then they come right back up. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's what it all boils down to. He says, hello there, friend. My car is made in Germany, and I guess that all B5 Passats are actually from there. He says, I do live in Brazil, so probably there are differences between the Brazilians and the Americans versions of this car. Here in Brazil, this car is really, really pricey to keep, so that's why I usually order my parts from the U.S., eBay, and other online stores like AutoHaus AZ and FCP Groton. Now, the modules I bought from eBay were, here's the key, the American versions of this. Now, remember, the car was made in Germany, right? Or made in Germany, so therefore, he's going to get that fourth switch. And that's why they were causing this problem when he installed them. So, he's got a car that has these 4 switches in the driver door module. In fact, in the passenger side too. And what would happen is he would buy these American versions, right? 3 switches and put that in the car. Now, the comfort control module is looking to see that signal coming from this fourth switch, and it wasn't seeing it, right? So that's kind of where we're at right now. Now, he says now, regarding the logics behind the safe status. Now, Thomas, if you or somebody else out there are familiar with Volkswagen, safe, not safe, I don't understand what we're talking about here, so maybe you can help on that. He said he confesses that he never figured it out. He says, I remember that when I hit the lock button, right, all the door modules that were locked and stayed locked, that's the ones that were good on the other side, the passenger side, that was the Brazilian versions, remember those are the ones that had the 4 switches, were sending a not safe status to the comfort control module, right? And this is another thing. If you're locking in this, I would think, wouldn't that be safe, right? No, he says it's not safe. And I kind of asked him about that again. He assures me that's what it was saying. Seems like it would be backwards, right? If you lock a door, wouldn't it be safe? But here it's saying it's not safe. So I don't know. What do they mean by safe and not safe? Status to the comfort control module while the doors that locked and then unlocked right after. That was the US versions. That was the boards, that was the the door modules that had the 3 switches in it and not 4. So that's why he was having a problem. So they were sending a safe signal to the comfort control module. So that means that that means that the safe status has nothing to do with the lock or unlock status of the door. Okay? So he says, I think that the safe signal tells the comfort control module to keep that particular door unlocked no matter what, while the not safe signal tells the comfort control module to keep that door locked instead. And he says that, he's asking if it make any sense when I post the video up here. So I don't know, guys. I'm not sure the purpose of that switch, but to me it makes more sense if it had it in there, right? Because look at here. If I had that slide and it's moving up and you hit this switch, right? It hit this switch and it could tell the car, hey, we're in an unlocked status. And that same signal can turn the power off to our motor, right? Our motor is up here. Okay, makes sense, right? Then if it goes back in the other direction, it could hit this switch, tell it it's in a lock condition, and that same signal can tell it to turn the motor off, right? All right, now you figured this one out because I don't know. When this thing goes back, the only thing I can figure that it's going to be unlock and lock is it's going to be looking at the change state of this here contact when it goes, say, from closed when it's being made, and when it comes off, now it's closed and now it's in a lock position. Well, not really, but as soon as it comes off, it's still got travel to go, right? And there's no switch down here, right, for the American version. So there's no switch, so how does it know when it's all the way back? Does it give it enough time? Just give it some power to the motor and just let it go and then turn it off? And I mean, it just made sense if they kept it in there. Why they take it out? I don't know. Doesn't make sense. Here's the other thing. Well, they're going to take it out to save money, right? Well, guess what? They put the pin in the connector. They have a wire that runs all the way back to the driver door module. Why not even take that out on the American versions? It's there. That wire and that pin is there, okay? Even on the PC board, you know, they run the trace and everything for it, so it's there. I don't know. Just doesn't make sense. Let's go over the diagrams real quickly here. All right, you see this one right here that says pin 5? Pin 5 is going to go to these, the one that's being operated off the slide. This is one I'm going to call, I've been calling the unlock condition. All right, notice that it is normally closed, right? Now, we already know that this switch is, well, let's put this in as the unlock status, okay? That's the one up there at the very front on the slide, right? Unlock status. It is wired normally open, but it's held closed, okay? And I'm going to actually talk to you a little bit about that too, about this normally open and held closed and all that. Okay, so now we took care of that one. Now, the other end of the slide, remember the one, that extra switch? Well, that there is pin 3. That's this one right here. This one is just wired normally closed, okay? And I'm gonna call him, for now, I'm just gonna say lock status is safe and not safe. Feedback for this, I'm not sure, but we know that the slide, when it comes back, it will make that, so that's what I'm gonna call that. Okay, so now, you see these here? See this right there? Look at this switch. How many switches do you see right there? That is actually just showing it's really is one switch, but it's actually 2 switches, right? So we know that we got 2 switches. There's one input, there's another output going to an input over here on the door module. Okay, this one right here, pin 4, you see it's normally open, right? Wired, normally open. This is for the key. This is a key that goes into your door lock cylinder. This one right here, pin number 4, okay? That one right there is going to be for the lock. I'm going to say lock key, right? And it is wired normally open. This one right here, pin 6, that is going to be for the unlock. And I'm going to say key, and that is wired normally open, okay? And of course you see the motor, it's on pins 1 and 2, all right? And now we have one switch left, and that's the one that's on pin 8. Now, this one right here, if you look at it, you see it is normally closed. Do I wire that normally closed, or do I wire that normally open? Is it wired normally open and held closed? You see what I'm getting at, guys? You do not know, right? So I'm going to tell you what the condition of this one is. This one is wired normally open but held closed, okay? Now, this switch is for door open or closed, okay? Now, when it's in a normally closed condition like it's showing right now, that means that the door is open. When it's normally open, then the door is closed, okay? All right, now we got that out of the way, let's look at it and see if we can analyze this a little bit. You notice how that this here is a common on the switches, right? All the way down, common, common, common. But let's see, but is there 0 volts, ground volts on here, positive volts? You know, we're trying to figure out what kind of signal voltage state. Is it a high state, meaning there's voltage there? It could be 5 volts, could be 12 volts, or a low state where it'd be 0 volts. Okay. I don't know what the voltage in the high state is. I actually did not measure it. I apologize. Trying to get the car back, you know. So if you get out there, if you get a voltage, say 12 volts, then you know it's high. Okay, if you got a 0 volts, then you know it's low. But the voltage value is not important. But let's see if we can figure out what we got here. You notice I got a common. I don't know if it's 0 volts or if there's a 12 volts. So let's follow it up. Now look, we go up, we come across, we come across, we come across. Wait a minute. Looky here. You see this is going to this LED. This LED is up there around your door locking button up there. You remember the red LED that's flashing when it arms? Well, here's the LED. Okay, you see the LED? This side right over here is the cathode side. See, you know it's a cathode because it's got that little bar right there. This cathode side, this side over here is the anode side. Now, for this here LED to turn on, this side has to be more positive in respect to the cathode. That means the cathode is negative. Therefore, we know that this right here, this here line is at 0 volts, okay? And that 0 volts, that ground, is being provided by the door module, okay? In this case, the driver door module, okay? All right, so we know that. Now, we got 0 volts, but we have to also have a high state, don't we? So let's just see if we can just pick one. Let's see, which one do I want to pick? Okay, let's pick this one right here, this switch. Right now, we're at 0 volts. It is closed. Now we got 0 volts, goes up, goes up, goes over, and we're coming in on pin 29, right? But we have to have a pull-up resistor, right? And that pull-up resistor is going to be going through some supply volts. Remember, I didn't know what it was. It could be 12 volts, it could be 5 volts, but that's not important. Now, that voltage right there is what the microcontroller is going to be looking at for an input, right? I'm going to say MC, microcontroller. Now, let's see how it'll work. We can already see that if this is in a closed condition, then we know that we're going to be putting 0 volts right there, right? Now, let's say that this here switch is going to move over. Here's a common, see the arrow? So it's going to toggle from here to there. Common stays fixed. This here line's going to stay fixed. So this is going to swing over. Now, when that swings over, what is going to happen? We have broke away from our ground. Now let's go back, let's go back, let's go back. So now, that means that our plus V volts is going to be sitting right here now. Now, that plus V volts is going to be going into there. So what is the outcome of this? So when you have a switch that is switch closed, doesn't matter which one of these switches because they're all the same. So when a switch is closed, back up here on your connector, it's your driver door module. If you want to pull that connector off, and if you want to go in there and check your voltages, or leave it connected. But if you want to go in there and check your voltages, then you can see the status of these here switches. Or if you want to, you can unplug it, the connector, and then you can use an ohm meter. Now that you know all the states of this right now with these switches, which one is which, now you can check it if you want to. So anyway, switch close is going to be 0 volts, and when a switch opens, right, then that is going to be, I'm just going to say plus V because I do not know what that voltage will be. It could be 12 volts, could be 5 volts, but it's going to be a high state. Okay? Now, you remember when I said a switch is like wired normally open but held closed and all that kind of stuff? Alright, here's something I'm going to show you that you probably ain't going to never see. Probably a lot, even electricians, guys, that I've been working with 10, 15, 20 years, don't know this. I'm going to draw a switch, right? And I'm going to draw, let's see, I'm going to draw it this way first. Let me put it down there like that. Okay? Then I'm going to draw another switch right underneath there. Okay? Oops. And I'm going to draw another one over here. And I'm going to draw him like that. And I'm going to draw another one like this. Okay. Now here's your question for you. Is there any difference in these switches and how you would wire them up? In other words, would you wire this switch normally open? Would you wire this one normally closed? Would you wire that normally closed? And would you wire that one normally open? And if you said yes, then you got two of them wrong. And let me explain. This switch right here is wired normally open, but it is nothing pressing on the switch to make it. All right, that's what. Now the reason I'm going through this is because you got to look at switches on a car. Like this door lock module could be in different states. Is the switch open, you know, but the door is closed? Now the switch closes, but they draw it closed, so you don't know. So that's why we're going over this. This switch right here, you don't wire it normally closed. You wire this switch normally open, but it is held closed. Okay? You can imagine an air cylinder. You know, you wire a switch open, the air cylinder comes, the flag on the gets hit, or the micro switch when the cylinders may be in an extended position. That's another example. Now this switch over here is wired normally closed, but it's not anything pressing on it. Same as this one here. It's wired normally open, but nothing is pressing on it. This switch is wired normally closed, but it's held open. Okay? Now do you see the difference? Now you're thinking to yourself, well, how in the hell am I going to remember all this? Well, guess what? It's simple. Trust me, it's very simple. Here's how you can tell. You have your two terminals on your switch. Well, if you look at a common terminal, usually what's going to happen, you're going to see that common terminal, they're going to go right in the center, all right? If this here bar, this should be representing your switch contact, if it comes underneath this here other terminal, right then you know automatically that this switch is going to be wired normally open, okay? Wired normally open. Okay, that's it. Now I'm going to go to the next example. I'm going to go to the center. There's my common. Okay, what do you notice? Is the bar underneath the circle? Yes, it is. Forget about that it shows it's normally closed. What you know right now is that you're going to wire this switch. You're going to wire it normally open. And it's telling you the status of the switch, that it is being held closed by some device out there. Okay? Over here on this side, you start at your common. Now you can figure out probably what's going to happen for the normally closed side. Remember the normally opens? We come up underneath the terminal. Normally closed, now we're going to go above the terminal. Once you see this bar comes up above, you know right then, that tells you wire that switch normally closed. Okay? Now you come to your next scenario. This one is going to go, whoops, going the wrong way. This one is going to be like that. Well, you look at the bar. First thing, don't look at the state of what it is, like open or closed. Is the bar above this terminal? Yes, it is. Therefore, wire this switch normally closed, but you know that a device is holding this switch open. Okay? So there you go. Hopefully that'll make some sense to you guys. And before I close the video out, there is one more thing. I saw a lot of people having problems like, you know, hey, my door is locked and I can't get it open. I can't open from the outside. I can't open from the inside. You know, that's a real problem. So doesn't it sound like maybe something, one of the switches just wants to keep it in that lock condition, right? Maybe you try to open it once locked. So for that, I'm thinking for you guys out there, maybe try this right here. How about this here? Here's another thing, just a little bit. From my understanding, these are all inputs from the switches going into the driver door module. And the driver door module in turn is also sending an output signal to control this motor. But I think that the driver door module is also communicating up here with the comfort control module. Here they call it Comfort System Central Control Module, okay? In fact, the antenna for your key, not your key, but your remote transmitter, that is also on here. Look at the inputs and everything and outputs on that joker, right? So, this here, I think, is passing the signals. The driver door module is passing the signals, the inputs over to this joker, and this is the decision-making joker. He's going to control your window operation. He's going to control, up and down. He's also going to control your lights, when they turn it on, the interior lights, and let me see, your trunk, your tailgate, fuel system, supplemental restraints, anti-theft system, also, let's see, engine controls. I mean, hey, lots of stuff here, right? So this joker's controlling a lot of things. So my guess is that maybe something is going on here based on what's happening in your driver, or, one of your lock modules is keeping it in a state. So what you could try is try this. You notice that you see the supply bolts up here feeding this here comfort control module. You see here's one right there, right? And this is the one that's in hot and on or start. Well, let's say you got your key off, you got your key in your hand, so I don't think I would worry about him. Here's one hot and on or start. Okay, I don't think I'll worry about him. But look at this one right here. Hot at all times. Now this is only a guess. I have not tried it, but if you guys got a door that you cannot open, it stays locked all the time, and you can't even open it up to get the panel off or anything, take this fuse right here, and it looks like we want to try this fuse right there. Fuse 14. That should be over on the left-hand side of your dash in that little access panel. So pull that fuse out. Kill the power to this, and in turn it should not be supplying output voltages to say to turn the motors or keep them in a lock condition. Now once you do that, then you remember I told you that you'd be able to take your key, right? You maybe try to unlock it with the door handle outside or the door handle inside. If that doesn't work after you pull the fuse, then take your key and put it in, turn it to an unlock condition, because as you remember from the previous video, that should move that slide and then unlatch the locking mechanism that goes around your striker plate. All right, guys, let's go back to these part numbers that I promised that I was talk about. I went over to one of the Volkswagen forums, and the guys over there that's repairing their switches and the solder pads and that kind of stuff. Now this is these switches. This one, this one, this one, and this one are made by Cherry. Their website is www.cherrycorp.com. Now, you guys going to have to look up these part numbers. I only took it from what they were showing, right? But this one is going to be this part number right here, okay, for this here unlock. Okay? This one is a mirror image. It has a different part number. That's going to be this one, okay? See that one? Now, let's move over to this locks. I'm going to call it the lock status. Could be safe, not safe, switch, whatever. This is for that fourth switch. For the rest of the world, not in North America, that switch is going to be this part number right here, okay? This one right here is going to be that part number, okay? And finally, the other one over here that's detecting when the door is open or closed, okay? The website, that's a Burgess manufacturer. Here's a website. I believe now Burgess has been bought out by Johnson Electric, so you can type in either one of these addresses. It will get you to the same spot, okay? And the Burgess number looks like V3SUL. However, that switch runs you about $25, and also it was not exactly the same switch. And the switch that I saw in there for this one looks like it's just a switch that's got 2 holes in it where you put a screw in. And that switch looks like similar to this, right? You got your plunger. Okay, it does have the wires, but it looks like that, right? There are diagonal holes. If you notice on all of these switches, right, they're like this, and there's a post, and there's a post, they're in line. So you got something like this, right? Side view. These posts are used to locate the switch in the right position. As you can see right now, that you're going to have to modify the holes that's in the door lock assembly. You're going to have to slot them and do all that kind of stuff to make this switch work. However, there is another switch that these guys were using, which was from Radio Shack. Now, we're down to $3.50. Okay, so this is the part number, Radio Shack 275016. But you know when you're going to buy something cheap, right, and it's not the right switch, you're going to get some drawbacks, right? Well, that switch looks like this, same as the other. There is no wires. You're going to have some solder lugs sticking out, so you're going to have to solder your own wires on there. There are some holes in it, right? That's diagonal like this. Again, you're going to have to take and slot the bracket there, you know, where here's your door module, and you got your holes in there where those pegs went. Well, you're going to have to be going in there and doing some stuff like that, right, to get this to line up in there. And at the same time, you're going to have to slot this thing so that this here little plunger is going to make up to the cam that's going to be rotating. All right, so you're going to have to do some adjustment. You're going to have to figure out where to do this slotting at. And that's not all. And when you do that, keep in mind that when you slot this stuff like this and you put a screws in there and you put your nuts behind it, well, doesn't that sound like that could move and get out of adjustment? No problem. These guys have come back and they start putting JB Weld all up on top to hold it in place. Okay, so I'm not going to go that route. I'm just going to get a whole nother door driver door module and driver door lock module, and I'm just going to go that route. I'm not going to go through all this stuff, but I know some of you guys might want to know how to do that. I'll put a link in this here video in the description so you can go over there and read the forums about all these guys and what they're doing with the solder pad connections and the bad micro switches and using the Radio Shack. So a lot of them has pretty good success. You know, they say it does pretty good and some of them not so good. So I'm going to leave that up to you and what you want to do. My biggest objective is, like in this video, is to give you the information about the electrics and how it works. And if you want to make the repair to go, with this route, then that's up to you. Okay, guys, did I cover everything? If I think I have, other than this safe and not safe feedback thing, with that 4 switch. So anyway, I hope the information was helpful to you, and hopefully we'll be seeing you guys in the next video when we be putting all this crap back together in the car. All right, so you guys take care, and we'll see you in the next one.